Of late, you would have heard of an important insurgent leader from Assam having surrendered or maybe arrested and shown as surrendered in Meghalaya when he was coming from Bangladesh. Now, what is the insurgency in Assam that is still remaining? What is the United Liberation Front of Assam, which remains a banned organization as far as the militant organizations in the Northeast are concerned? That's the subject of this week's Simply Nitin. I am Nitin Gokhale. Now, let me take you back 30 years, to be precise, on 27th November 1990. That is the day when Assam was placed under the President's rule and an operation by the Indian Army called Operation Bajrang was launched on 27th November 1990 to bring the activities, violent and often detrimental to the state security activities by the United Liberation Front of Assam, or ULFA as they call them in Assam. The insurgent group, which was formed in 1979, had gone on rampage in Assam since 1988 and had taken the state to ransom, particularly the state's flourishing tea industry. They were running amok in the rural areas. They were in fact running a parallel government in rural areas between 1988 and 1990. So the government of India, the central government in Delhi, decided to impose President's rule, dismiss the government of Prafulla Kumar Mahanta, who was the Chief Minister of Assam, elected on a very popular vote on the back of the Assam agitation, of which I spoke about in August this year, which was signed in August 1985. Then the boys who led that agitation actually formed a party called the Assam Gana Parishad, and they won the elections in 1985, December 1985, to rule the state of Assam. But within 5 years, the people who were the ruling elite in the Assam Gana Parishad went from being darling of the state and of the people to being completely hated or completely antagonizing the population, because they had allowed these militant organization called the ULFA or ULFA elsewhere as it is called to run amok in the state. As I mentioned, the ULFA actually took up arms in 1988, although they were formed in 1979. They established contacts with the other insurgent groups, the bigger insurgent groups in Naga Hills or in Nagaland, the NSC-N-IM, the NSC-N-K, and even UNLF, and went for arms training to Myanmar and then established some camps in Bangladesh later. So what happened on 27 November 1990, exactly 30 years ago? In the run-up to this event of 27th November, from June, or in fact I would say from April 1990, the law and order situation in Assam started deteriorating day by day. The ULFA was on the rampage. They were holding people to ransom. They were kidnapping tea executives. They were kidnapping government officials. They were extorting money. And they were running almost a parallel government, especially in areas of Upper Assam, the districts of Sibsagar, Dibrugarh, Jorhat, Tinsukia, and the areas around it where there is a thick jungle called Lakhipatar. They had established their general headquarters. Now, on 9th April 1990, a turning point occurred in this run-up to the President's rule to be imposed in Assam. What happened that day? That day, Surendra Paul, brother of the more famous Swaraj Paul, who owned the Assam Frontier Tea Company, part of the APJ group based in Calcutta, was gunned down between Dibrugarh and Tinsukia. And that sent shock waves as well as set off panic reactions among the tea industrialists in Assam. The tea industrialist and the Indian Tea Association Assam branch had to then go and negotiate with the leadership of the ULFA in Dibrugarh where they were cess or tax imposed by these insurgent leaders who said the tea industry will pay 1 rupee per kg of tea that is manufactured in Assam as extortion tax. They called it the cess for an independent Assam. I mean, they were, what was the ULFA's aim ultimately? It was for an independent or a Swadhin Assam. So when all this started happening, the law and order kept deteriorating. The government in center also changed. Prime Minister VP Singh was ousted. Chandrasekhar took over as Prime Minister. And then around the time of early November, another crisis in the tea industry occurred. That crisis was that Unilever, which is a big multinational conglomerate of various businesses, had some tea gardens or still has some tea gardens in Assam near Dumduma, which is another area of great tea cultivation. They were asked for some extortion money by the militant group ULFA. Now, Unilever did not want to pay. So they put pressure on its London headquarter. The London-based headquarter of Unilever put pressure on the Indian High Commission in London. That time, the Indian High Commission in London was a famous journalist called Kuldeep Nayyar, who then contacted Delhi. Also, one of the economic ministers or economic councillors in the London High Commission of India was Assamese IAS officer called MP Bezbarua. He contacted his counterparts in Assam. Chief Secretary Haren Das got this call from him that such and such notices have come, threats have come, and Unilever wants no part of this. They want to close down the operations there. So when all this was happening, the central government was discussing how this could be resolved. When they found no cooperation from the state government of Prafulla Kumar Mahanta, who was the chief minister, and Bhrigu Kumar Phukan, who was the home minister, then they decided that the only answer was to crack down on the militancy and impose President's rule, dismiss the government of the AGP leaders led by Prafulla Mahanta, and then of course see whether the law and order can be brought into control. I was a young editor at that point in time. We had just started a new newspaper called the Northeast Times. I got to know that such and such tensions were happening, and as luck would have it, we broke a story of the airlift of the Unilever employees or Dumduma tea garden employees who were flown in from Upper Assam in the airplanes provided by the RNAW, the Research and Analysis Wing. They have a organization called the ARC, the Aviation Research Center, which have their own dedicated planes. These planes took off from their airstrip at Dumduma, brought all the family members and the tea garden executives to Guwahati, and from there they were flown out to various destinations across India where they were deemed to be safe. Now this airlift became a bone of contention between the center and the state government. The airlift was done behind the back of the state government, and the relation between the center and the state government just went downhill from there. Within about a fortnight's time, the central government decided that it's time to impose President's rule. So, D.D. Thakur, who was then the governor of Assam, a lawyer in Supreme Court himself, later, if you want a contemporary reference, his son actually became the Supreme Court Chief Justice in recent years. And Mr. D.D. Thakur was hell-bent on dismissing the government because he said that the law and order had completely collapsed in Assam and the government did not deserve to continue. So on 27th November, a special flight landed in Delhi along with the proclamation of President's rule at midnight, and the President's rule was imposed. The army was in the meantime primed to go into Lakhipatar, which was their hideout in Upper Assam, and where somehow the ULFA leadership had got to know that such and such action is contemplated. So they had vacated the entire camp there. So when the army marched into Lakhipatar, they couldn't find anybody there really. And therefore, Operation Bajrang, although it was launched with great secrecy, did not achieve the aim that it wanted to achieve. That was the beginning of the presence of the Indian Army for law and order situation, for anti-insurgency operations in Assam on 27th November midnight of 1990. It's been 30 years since then. There was a subsequent operation launched called Operation Rhino, which continued for a number of years. Number of ups and downs happened. A lot of ULFA leaders were arrested. They were either arrested in Assam or when they fled to Bangladesh. Later they were picked up from Bangladesh. Some of them surrendered. There were talks with Narasimha Rao government in 1992. Many things happened. Assam went through a bloody phase of insurgency from 1990 to about 2000. And then by 2000, people had also got fed up with the insurgency. So the entire pace and intensity of insurgency just reduced to nothing, and then finally it was brought under control. Just this week you would have heard of the demise of Tarun Gogoi, Chief Minister of Assam, a former 3-time Chief Minister of Assam. He was lucky that he became Chief Minister at a time when insurgency was on the decline, and then he brought back Assam to normalcy. He brought back investment, he brought back the kind of vibrancy that the Assamese society possesses. And of course, insurgency completely went downhill from there. Although some remnants, one of their leaders, Paresh Barua, who calls himself Commander-in-Chief, continues to elude the police and the law and order machinery and the army. He is reported to be traveling between Myanmar and Yunnan province of China. But he is the only one who is remaining there. It's a bloody chapter in Assam's recent history. Of course, not much was achieved from that insurgency except for the fact that Assam came into the limelight. An army went in to the state for the first time for counter-insurgency operations. Although army was present there for various other things like looking at the China border and also coming to aid of the civil authorities during floods and other natural calamities. That's the short history I wanted to bring to your notice. I of course wrote a book in 1998 called The Hot Brew, detailing the Assam tea industry's most turbulent decade, as I call it. It has all the details that I mentioned here, many more details than what I have mentioned here. And this book was published in April 1998. Of course, it is out of print. It was published by a local publisher in Guwahati. For many of you, those who don't know, I spent 23 years reporting India's Northeast based in Guwahati from 1983 to 2006. And therefore, I know firsthand what happened at that point in time. And I was lucky to be part of some of the historic and momentous incidents that happened between 1990 and now. That's something that you may want to read or you may want to sort of know in detail. Going forward, there are various other books which have been published and written by other journalist friends of mine or some other authors. But this was my first book, the first of the 7 books that I have written so far. And this is perhaps only one of the 2 copies that I have at the moment with me. That's all I wanted to say. Please do go and look up. Assam used to be neglected not just by the government but also by the people in the rest of the country. But now, of course, a lot of people know about Assam. But it's a beautiful part of our country. Do go and visit not just Assam but the other 6 states of the Northeast, which have abundant natural beauty as well as very scenic tourist spots for you to go and look at what that part of India looks like. As usual, do keep sending the feedback, keep sending us the suggestions, keep liking us on our social media platforms like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and of course, write to us in case you have some suggestions and ideas, and we will take them up. Until the next time, it's goodbye.